Hello, hello! Welcome to our episode. Fuck it. Now I'm conscious. Okay,
A few minutes later.
let's see. Hi guys, welcome to our today's episode, and today I'm here with Pushpak Mundre on his episode.
This podcast. It's okay. Like I think we can keep this like so authentic. We want it to be so authentic actually. Yeah.
Beat you.
We are not gonna remove this guys. It's like this is what goes in when we create content actually. I think it's very important to keep this side. Just show them like what we what
Every
what it
comment.
takes to really create content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's struggle.
2 hours later.
Try to introduce us to yourself, Krishna.
I will introduce you to myself. Well, this is Pushpak, I'm your Pushpak's audience, and I will introduce myself to you guys now. Well, hi. So, hi guys, I'm Krishna, and I'm a content creator myself. And I started this profession out of sheer love for the magic that you can create with words, right? And what compelled me to start my career in writing is that as I recall, I always wanted to read and consume as many stories as I could, and I wanted to master the art of adding human emotions to the depth and layers of a story. So hence I started writing and creating content in different formats. Currently I'm vibing with my ebony cat Mike, who helps me with a lot of brainstorming, and I'm also creating content for Khatabook. So yay! happy to be
Awesome.
here.
Thank you so much for doing this, Krishna, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super excited. So, I think you kind of mentioned like what led you to writing content and creating.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add to that?
Oh well, there is so much actually. As far as my memory goes, I have been obsessed with consuming stories in any
Mhm.
format. Be it in radio, stories that in old days,
Yeah.
the shows that used to come from a designated hours when they
Mhm.
used to narrate a story. Be it that, or be it my Hindi textbooks or English textbooks, which I used to read the first as soon as I bought them to read all the stories that were there, or anything that is a newspaper clipping, be it any kind of content that is in a form of story. I was drawn into it, and I wanted to create the same effect with my writing. I wanted to learn
Since
how.
when you wanted to do that, like when you were a kid, you were kind of nerd kid, like more into writing. Because as a kid, I never, my parents used to tell me a lot, like, hey, read this, read that, but I never did it. But you were doing this by yourself without telling,
Mhm.
that's like what can, yeah. I
It's
don't
more not like an ambition or like a passion. It was
Mhm.
more like an attraction towards being engaged to something that really relates with you, really resonates with you. For me, stories resonate so much. I learn a lot from stories. I get entertained by stories. They keep me, they give me perspectives. They help me think clearer, or they help me form perspectives or ideas about my own reality, my own rationale.
Yeah.
So as a child, I have always been drawn to that format of content, which is storytelling, and hence I wanted to learn how to create that same effect with my skills. Maybe like the attraction that I got from other authors when I was reading their work, I wanted to be on the other side of the table as well, and hence I started creating, writing. And I remember the first time I started writing was a hate letter to my mom, because she did not make my favorite dish, and I was in kindergarten, and I wrote a letter to my.
Damn, you were writing from at that time.
Yeah, it was a very embarrassing moment, but very innocent moment, I would rather say. But it was a letter to my mama, and I was telling him that I'm coming home to Assam from Delhi, and I am coming by walk, and and they better be ready with this bindi, aloo bindi dish when I'm there. So that was like, I would say, as early as my memory goes, the first piece of writing that I did out of my own will. That wasn't a homework, or that wasn't like, an assignment, like that, right? And since then, I have seen in, movies and in pop culture that girls have these diaries, they normalize the fact, or like the thing that, what you can't tell a friend or something, like, you can write in a diary. So, yeah, I mean, I started writing diary, like journals when my parents were in bed, like, they were all passed out and like, deep in their sleep. And that's the safest time to, bring your diary out with all the dark secrets, right? So, yeah, writing started like that with me.
So, as you said that you are into reading as well. So do you think reading stories, or you're into books which have like really good stories, does that help with content writing, and does that help with creating like good stories as well? Like,
yes, definitely, because when you are learning, you learn from imitating, right? If you remember, in our childhood days, we had these workbooks with cursive letters and all that, right?
Yeah.
And different kind of handwritings. So you learn how to become a writer, how to get that flow when you're writing into the story, the thoughts that you've put together on paper. Because when in your head you have the thing ready, but when you put it down on paper, it may not make sense. It may make sense to you, but not to the audience, to other POV. So yes, reading good authors, finding a kind of taste in the kind of writing that you like to read, and the kind of writing you want to, writer that you want to be. It definitely helps when you are taking examples and trying to write like your favorite authors or the favorite books that you have read. It is a kickstart somewhere, and it has helped me a lot too. For example, Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye is a book that brings a catharsis and rhetorical questions, right? And it's a very, I don't want to give spoilers for those who have not read. So
I'm gonna ask you a lot of suggestions for book. Because I'm only reading the self-help books and it kind of sucks. I'm so done with them.
Oh, you have so much to explore. I'm so excited for you. So anyway, this book, talks about this really chaotic environment, a really painful scenario, and she makes us readers ponder through very emotional, rhetorical questions that, what do you say in Hindi, Karun Ras?
I know.
Yeah, Karun Ras means sympathy. It compels you to put yourself in the shoes of the victim, or the victim that you're reading in that story. The story, the narrative may be fictional, but her questions make you ponder so much. Sorry. So you feel like, that compelled me, that kind of, excited me to think how to ask one question and attach, to be able to leave multiple gates of, POVs to be attached to it. So, I would say Toni Morrison.
So, as you started your writing when you were in kindergarten, and you did this by yourself, right?
Yes.
So right now, like, we are living in 2020. It's been, I don't know, it's been like decades maybe. So and right now we are living in a time where like content creation is like it's a completely different thing. Like, nobody expected. It's very monetized. If you are a content creator, it's kind of like you are running your own company. You are an entrepreneur. Like, the kind of money you can make, the kind of people you can reach out to, the kind of influence that you can create through content, right? Like, though you started writing content, creating content by yourself, but right now people are trying to learn, and I think, of course, people can learn this by writing, by learning, right?
Yes.
So we are like living in a completely different situation, time, and we are calling it creator economy, where every creators are coming up. So, but at the same time, I see a lot of content is out there. So why should I create content? Like, why should any other our listeners, our viewers, why should they create content? Like, I've been creating content for the last 2 years, but sometimes this question still comes to me, like, why should I create content?
So there is no strict rule to why you should create content. It's up to you. You can definitely just be a content consumer,
Yeah.
and that's absolutely fine. But if you have something that you want to share, doesn't matter how important it is, but if you want something that you have to share and you feel like should stay chronologically across time, you know, that's why you should create content. For example, like if I say, I don't mean like, you know, here I want to be clear on my emphasis of content is on different formats of content, right? Not just being a writer. I am not talking about just writing poetry or like literature books. If you go back, the cave paintings were a form of content, right? Because they had a story. They wanted to tell something, pass some information. What is this information? That our ancestors used to hunt. They used to be carnivores. They used to eat. They used to hunt animals like in jungles, in herds or groups. Whatever information we know is because of these content in a way that they have created.
Right.
The Mayan calendar is a piece of content, right? And a huge amount of information that they're passing. In fact, our DNA is a piece of content. It holds information as well as codings. Like any bug that you have or like face in the apps or any app that you use is a form like a collection of codings and all that is a collection of instructions, stories, right? That the machine needs to go through a process. So content creation is everything. It's not that you need to be a video person or a photographer or an artist or a writer. You're a content creator. If you have some sort of information or if you have some sort of story that you think is for greater good and needs to be shared, then you need to be a content creator.
Yeah, that's an amazing perspective to look at. So, like recently, a lot of people are talking about content is king, right? Like, since pandemic, even before that, like social media marketing, like everyone is doing social media marketing, because that's where everyone is right? And whenever and there are a lot of companies which are coming up. So we at our podcast we focus on creator economy and entrepreneurship as well. So suppose if you are an early stage startup, and so how important for early stage startups is creating content is, and how can they go ahead with that journey as well?
Okay, think of a startup as a lab, or like as a lab, I would say, where you're building a product, right? And all the early founders, or the people who are working in the early stage are scientists. Now imagine that these scientists are, experimenting and they are creating a product, but they are not writing it down, right? Then isn't that a big loss? What are you going to do about it? How are you going to know, right? And that piece of content itself, right? Like your handwritten content of, how much of maybe goof ups you made during the process of going through the experimentations, what went wrong, right? Sometimes that itself is so much information to gauge for people to learn from. So I would say from the day you start thinking about your product, about a startup, about the name, you should start creating content. Reason one, content creation is a tedious project. Alright? It's not just about writing content. You have to plan where you need to put your content, what you're going to write, how you're going to manage your SEO, and how you're going to do your content distribution. And by the time you have figured out one content bucket and you have done all the content formats and all the content distribution, you're already late. And not all startups, and in fact it is like that in early stages the startups, they are everybody's putting their 100% of their time, effort, and it's a low bandwidth environment, right? We do not have the luxury of time. So the earlier you start, the day you start thinking about your company, your startup, put it down on paper. You never know, that piece of information will be helpful for the content creator who's writing about the life page, the biodata for your company, right? The principles and the processes that you have. If you put it clearly in a comprehensive manner, that would probably help the product or the salespeople who are going to join later. If not being published, right, online, but it would definitely help in the growth of the employees or the new joinees of the company by itself. So yes,
Wow, that's a really amazing answer. I think you covered everything. Like suppose someone is starting a company, even if they go through what you have just told them, I think they will get a lot of idea of what exactly need to be done and how to go ahead with that.
Exactly.
So I have a kind of same question regarding individual creators, right? Like suppose if you want to start a content, like, or if one of your viewers, they want to start creating content, okay, but they are not sure what kind of content they should create. Like they have multiple interests, right? Maybe they are into music, maybe they are into fitness as well, or entrepreneurship. So how that person should find? I see there are two kinds of creators. There are multiple kinds of creators, but there are creators who have figured out their niche and they just stick to it. And there are some creators who go like by creating multiple forms of content, like more like a journalist, right? So how do we figure that out? Like, do I want to create content in a specific niche, or I want to create a very general types of content? And yeah, how can a creator like go over this? Yeah.
So what you just mentioned as types is actually how I see as phases.
Okay.
Because I have been in that phase too, where I have done, dusted and written everything. From being like a small banner poster content, which is just like probably, going to be on outdoor hoardings and all that, to just writing for like, digital media right now. Right, so I have tried everything. I have also written for magazines and all that. So I have been there where I, took at least good 5 to 6 years to figure out what kind of writing I'm inclined into. And what I figured out I'm good at as a content creator, you need to connect with that passion, deep passion that you have that inspires you. And that's where you will do very well. Until you have not found that, like for a moment, I love eating, so I thought that writing for a food magazine would be a good idea, right? But what happened is I also love Indian culture. So, localization and native marketing, going in depth into, native advertising on digital media to, lingual level, right? So yeah, that is something that excited me. So, I mean, I feel like that's my niche now, and that happened to me after being in that phase of doing everything and figuring out that I don't want to do this anymore. So, yeah, I mean, you can keep experimenting and figure out. And those people who have found the niche too soon or too late, they have just figured out that what as a hobby or what outside work also excites them in art, in reading, in consuming content. So the things that you like consuming, you can create the best in those.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a amazing point. I think again the way you explained it, I got the idea. Awesome. So I wanted to add something actually, but I kind of messed up. This how it happens.
Bloopers.
What I wanted to add is, I think you have to give yourself a time if you're not sure about your niche. And like when I started creating content, it's been 2 years, and I just started it by just making videos. Like I was just talking in front of camera, any random stuff. That's how I got started. I started my podcast out of my hobby, like as I was inviting like random people because I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. But after 2 years, right now I think I've realized I want to focus on founders and creators and builders. So yeah, I think the point which you mentioned, it will take time. And if people who have already found it, that I think they are lucky, or maybe whatever the reason that they found their niche, that's a good thing. But yeah, like you have to, I think, keep experimenting. After that only you will figure it out. It's not, there's no any other way, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's necessary that you go through the journey.
Yeah.
And it will be very accidental when you find where you want to arrive.
Totally. Yeah. So I remember last time we met and we were having this conversation randomly, right? That would have been an amazing podcast at that time. The first time, I think, the first or second time we met. So I remember we were talking about like what the creator has responsibilities as well. Like because the kind of content which you create, it could influence millions of people,
Definitely.
right?
Yes.
That's why we call it influencer as well, because
Yes.
whatever you're putting it out there, like it could like really influence a lot of people. So what do you think? What kind of responsibilities a content creator should take? Even like especially nowadays, which people get easily offended, and there's a cancel culture out there. So how do people sustain in this and take a responsibility?
So, I mean, if I'll give you an example from my real life. And during this hybrid and work from home, model when during the pandemic was working out for all. So for this, I will give you an example from my real life. During the pandemic, when we were working from home, all our meetings were virtual, which used to be like a face-to-face meeting, right? And the tonality, sometimes the direction of these meetings changed. A lot of things changed. Why? Because sometimes I or the other person forget that it's not the gadget that's speaking to you. It's not the gadget that's putting you out.
Yeah.
It's you versus the other person,
Yeah.
right? And that gadget between you and him or them is just a medium, right? That's it. It's just a medium that takes you from here to here. And from here, it can go to one person or multiple, or from multiple to one person, right? Between these two mirrors or between these two camps, it is very important to understand that, like how you will be received and what kind of ideas you are leaving for the future,
Yeah.
right? You can.
It's like a legacy, right? Kind of.
It is a legacy. I mean, you need to be very careful about what kind of image or what kind of story you want to leave for yourself, what kind of story you want to leave for your life behind for the people.
Yeah.
And I understand, I have been in the places too where I have been rushed and been misused social media and may not have hurt people or have been on the other side as well.
Yeah.
But what from my personal experience I've learned is that it's just an adrenaline rush, addictive like drug because it's very short lasting, but it definitely leaves you with a bad feeling if it's not handled well, right? Which we would like to say as a downer, right? So yeah, it does leave you with a downer if you don't take it responsibly. So it is a drug, right? It is an addiction. It does give you a rush, adrenaline rush, and you can have a good time out of it, a bad time out of it, but it's not permanent. But that rush is not permanent. That moment is not permanent. What you leave behind you with those posts, with those comments, with those pictures, what people have seen, what people say, that's permanent. And it's okay. I mean, I don't have to care about what people think about me, but I do also have to care about what my contribution in this society is building in future, in time. And that's why I feel as a content creator, we should be responsible.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine all of a sudden I start creating content which is offensive to one wing of people, but is absolutely exciting to other people, one wing of people. Not everybody is going to like me, right? I can not care about it. I can be that person, but I will definitely have that in the back of my mind that there is a wing of people who don't like me, and my behavior will be more nonchalant, more aggressive, more defensive, right?
Yeah, but don't you think no matter what you create, no matter what kind of person you are, there will be someone out there who won't like you or what kind of content you're creating, right? It happens with every content creator. Like if someone is new to content creation, they suddenly get this, people start hating them, they get hate comments. And I think you can never be, of course maybe you can be in the middle, but I think there will be people who will get offended or
definitely,
right?
Yeah, I mean, you can never agree with everybody and expect everybody to agree with you,
exactly,
right? But as a creator, you're a giver, right? You're giving something out. As a good giver, as an efficient giver, your role is also to be an efficient receiver, right? There are people who will hate you no matter what. There are people who will not know how to channel their opinion
Yeah.
in a most constructive manner,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fine. But you as a person, again, what responsibility do you take, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
To react towards it. That's completely up to you, your
Mhm.
control. If you are not being affected by the fact that you have haters, there are people who would, no matter what, exist
Yeah.
to disagree with you. Why does it matter to you then?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like a coin with two sides.
Right. Exactly. So, one of the questions which I want to ask is, suppose anyone who wants to start with their content journey and they have like no idea how to get started.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and nowadays, like, video form of content is like super famous, but that doesn't mean you cannot try it, or it's not like, but it depends like person to person, right? So, like, suppose someone wants to start their journey with content creation, what piece of advice will you give it to them?
Whatever you're comfortable with in content creation, be it drawing, be it just recording your voice notes, or be it writing, get started with it. Whatever means you're comfortable with in creation, whatever tool, get started with it. The only blocker is our motivation, or the only blocker is that we started, right? We begin from somewhere. And as you begin, you need to be consistent.
Yeah.
As I was saying that, should not matter what people say, right? Because you need to receive feedback, criticism as feedback, and filter what you need to take away to construct yourself as the writer you want to be, or a creator you want to be, right? And take that and keep creating and build at it. I mean, there is no other way than practice that will make you better.
Yeah.
But not just practice, right? Practicing better things. If you can't keep practicing the same thing, or else you'll be stagnant.
Yeah.
Right? It would be, you'd rather swim in a sea, in an ocean, than in a pond. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
So, for the beginners, like what I did from my experience, my English was horrible. Like sentence construction was pathetic. Grammatical errors were in every sentence.
Yeah.
Why? Because I was from a science background, life sciences, and I was only used to writing bullet points.
Yeah.
And I took a jump and I wanted to be a writer. When I saw that, I am horrible at, writing. Okay, but I'm not bad at the language, but I'm just horrible at writing.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, I wanted to learn, how to master this art, and I joined literature, like reading, like I said, like reading and imitating them, the writers that you want. That's how I started. I'm not saying that you should go do like a master's in literature or do a course in writing. I found my head start. That was, like getting into the pool of academics and, figuring out from there. Your head start could be anything.
Right.
But you need to start from somewhere. That's all.
Yeah, I think the first piece of content which you created, and you did this willingly when you were in kindergarten, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people get started with content like this by writing journal. Even I was writing, after my 10th standard, I started writing. And nobody told me actually to do that. So, but I started by myself. So I think you have to just start it by somewhere. Like you can just start. I think Twitter is a good place to just get started. If you don't want to write a lot, just tweet something, or you can just make videos just on the phone, random videos. Right? There are a lot of options. So yeah. So I think you have read a lot of books and a lot of amazing books, especially in storytelling. Yeah. So yeah, I want what are your top 3 favorite books which you would suggest me and your audience to read?
Okay, so top 3 is very difficult because you go through these phases as a reader, and your top 3s keep changing based on the genre. And
maybe in the present moment top 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
At present, I mean, I do have some all-time favorites which really shifted my perspective, in my formative years.
Okay.
So we wish to inform you that tomorrow we will be killed with our families by Philip Korovich. It's
the name of the book?
Yes, it's the name of the book. So why it struck me is because this title is also the subject line of a letter that was written by a pastor in Rwanda during the Hutus and Tutsis genocide that was going through. And he had written it to the military of United Nations that was stationed there, that we wish to inform you that tomorrow we will be killed with our families. And it was a letter as an application for plea. I'm not sure, I think I'm mixing the facts, if it was for the UN military or for the to the president or the diplomats. But yeah, I mean, it was a desperate call, and Philip Gorevich went and visited Rwanda after the genocide took calm down. And the description was so unfiltered and with so much of empathy. He went really far to uncover as much truth as possible about the genocide. Obviously, with political restrictions being in the picture, and the book won the Pulitzer for the efforts that he had put into it. That book really opened my eyes in ways that I saw. Imagine when you're going to die and you can do nothing about it apart from writing just letters.
Crazy.
Yeah, apart from just writing letters and applications. Imagine.
Wow.
I mean, here we feel helpless as us being most relatable is when our leave applications get rejected.
Yeah.
Imagine when you apply or plead and that gets rejected, and there are some 250 people looking up to you, and you're going to die with them, and you have nothing to do. So that book really wrenched my heart. I took around 2 to 3 months to read it because it really, made me stop and think a lot. And that's why I think it would be in my top one. And I read this book in, I think, 2000. I was supposed to read it in 2013, but I read it in 2015 after I passed out of my master's. This book was supposed to, it was suggested to us in master's course in English. But I read it after college and it was amazing. It was
Awesome.
amazing.
I want to read that.
Yes. So the second book, I'll keep it quick, R.M. Drake, Beautiful Chaos. First time I read poetry without restrictions of rhymes or structure. I mean, until you read about poetry and you deconstruct them, it's in a structure. It has A, B, C, B kind of syllable thing, and then it has it's a sonnet or it's something, right? But R.M. Drake's poetry, it's just pauses where the thought needs to pause. And it can be a long sentence as this long, or it could be just 2 words. His poetry has been half a page long, and it has been 3 words as well, but it has so much depth. So Robert M. Drake is something that is my all-time favorite poet. And on number 3, I would say Thomas Harris, Silence of Lamb. And I am currently reading the book, and I am taking my time to read the book because it talks a lot about channelizing your emotions, the darkest, deepest emotions, and through crimes, through serial killings, through psychological murders. And
channelizing your emotions through watching psychological murders?
They are they are talking
I thought it's a self-help book. I thought it was a self-help.
Silence of the Lambs.
No. You said channelizing your... So was that a name of book?
Silence of the Lambs name of books by Thomas Harris. And
that book is about channelizing emotions.
Yeah, it basically, I'm not giving spoilers, but it's the whole book is about how serial killers channelize their deepest agony.
Oh, got it.
Yes.
Understood.
Yes, they channelize. So it's a lot about reflection on yourself. For example, I read this one line that if serial killers are channelizing their agony by killing people, how are we channelizing our agony? Some people are drinking a lot of coffee. Right?
Yeah.
If you ponder, some people are smoking too many cigarettes. So things like that. I mean, not saying what is good or bad, but we all have our ways to channelize our agony, our anger, which could be it could be non-harmful. It could be harmless, let's say. It could be harmless to others. It could look absolutely normal. But if you go deep inside your psyche and if you try to see what is making you do that, right? That is something that will really shake you.
Cool.
So that's the third book, and yeah, I'm hoping to finish it soon. A lot of thinking to do, and I hope there'll be new top threes.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe next time when we do this.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, go for it.
So, what's your favorite food?
Indian, anything Indian.
Favorite city?
Bangalore.
Why?
Oh, freedom.
Where do you live now?
Why?
Where do you live now?
I live in Bangalore.
Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? All
Yeah.
over here.
All over here? Seriously?
Yes.
Like for real?
For real.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your favorite breakfast?
Favorite breakfast fruits. Yeah.
Cool. What is your favorite type of music?
Favorite type of music, Indian.
Bollywood or?
No.
What do you mean by Indian?
Indian, like Shubha Mutkar and A.R. Rahman. Music.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
another genre.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or anything else? Do you think did we miss something?
I think, that everybody stay tuned and you need to keep watching more episodes of this podcast because there's so much we have planned and there's so many things coming up.
Yeah.
And we had fun creating this, definitely. It was
Lot
so
of fun.
spontaneous.
Yeah,
It was like a one shot, one take kind of thing. So
Yeah, we thought like we'd do this like multiple times,
Yeah.
but it just came I think really well.
non-scripted.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you so much, Krishna. It was really amazing having you on the podcast. Yeah, we got a lot of insights on content creation.
Yeah.
I think this podcast personally helped me a lot. Of course, it's gonna help our viewers as well. But as a creator, it helped me a lot, and I've got a different perspective about creating content. So thank you so much for that.
Pleasure is mine.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool.